So detaching does not mean we don't care.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't mean we don't care.
All right, what's another one?
And there are rewards to detaching with love.
So animated. What's one of the rewards?
Well, there's several.
Give me one.
Serenity. A deep sense of peace. Now, this is if you can detach.
Well, that's what I love is that you said it before we went on, before we started recording. You're like, well, this is great if you can fucking do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because...
I don't know. It makes me nervous. Certain guests make you nervous, Kaylin.
Yeah.
Big stars.
Yeah, sure.
They make me nervous. Like, like if you had Oprah on, that would be scary. If you had, big movie stars. And today I have a big movie star.
Oh, is that right?
I do. You may know her as the first person killed in the original Friday the 13th movie. You also may know her as Bride of Wahlberg. My wife, Robbie's on the podcast. Hi, babe.
Hi.
First of all, hi, everybody. Welcome to Bonfire Talks podcast. And so Robbie's my guest. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I realize that you've been in the background on episodes and stuff like that. And I never tell people that in addition to being just my wife, that's just like I'm just Ken. Just his wife, that you actually have had a career of your own that's far bigger than mine, and so I should give you some, as the kids say, give you your flowers.
Well, thank you. There was a time where I had a career I was working all the time, but
here's how much I love you.
Yeah,
there's a shadow right across her face. Can we move the mic or the light so that she doesn't have a shadow right across her face?
Yeah, let me see.
I don't mind being in the shadow, but I can't have you in the shadow.
Thank you.
There it is.
Bam.
Well done, Kaylin.
Is that better lighting?
Right, and I just wanted you guys, the YouTube viewers, both of you, to see, podcasting happening right in front of your eyes, just bare bones. Anyway, Friday the 13th. She was also in the original company of Barnum on Broadway. Movies, television, voiceover, all that stuff. Then you married me. I killed your career.
No, you didn't.
Kind of.
No, you didn't.
I mean, it didn't happen that way, but knocked you up and everything got fucked up from there.
Well, hey, it's not over yet.
No, and it's not over yet. That's for sure. But I wanted you here because I wanted to do like a real bonfire talk. Like I call it bonfire talks, but that's because, the bonfires I do on my TV show, but sometimes it's light, but this is relationship talk.
We love to do this.
You and me?
Yes.
Well, I guess I do love to do it, although I resist doing it all the time.
We have done this in the kitchen.
Our whole marriage.
Before
we had a kitchen.
Yeah.
And even when we were redoing our kitchen and we didn't have a kitchen.
I mean, we love talking about, the breakthroughs, and we kind of go, oh my God, you're not going to believe that this happened. And, we love it. We love talking about it.
I've made no bones about it, that anything that I say that's wise or sounds, that people like on Temptation Island or whatever, I probably either worked it out talking to you or you actually force-fed it to me and then I took credit for it. So when Robbie says we love doing this.
We do.
Well, Robbie loves this stuff.
Yes.
I am drawn to the truths of life, but I don't have the hunger for the voracious appetite you have for reading all the books and studying all the people and all that stuff.
Well, I remember...
I just listen to you, and that's usually enough for me to get what I need.
Well, I remember there was a time where you said, oh my gosh, Robbie, don't you ever get tired? And at that time, I didn't. I wasn't. I couldn't get enough of it. There was this...
We're talking self-help, spirituality, philosophy.
Yeah. Super Soul Sunday.
Stuff that Kayla and I have talked about, the tools you need to get yourself back to center.
Yeah, like tools for living.
Yeah,
like,
tools for living.
Like the big questions of life.
Yeah.
And I think I've settled down a little bit where I'm not like just starving for every morsel of information. But I do love
truly
it.
Is something you love, and
Yeah.
you have a. Let me just give you a little bit of what it's like in the Wahlberg house when we wake up in the morning. Okay.
Oh, be careful.
Well, not all of what happens when we wake up. So we wake up in the morning, and
I make the coffee.
this is, by the way, there have been days where this specific act of love, this love language of Robbie's to me, has saved our relationship more times than I care to mention when we're just not, things are not good. But Robbie wakes up in the morning and Robbie doesn't have many vices. I have several. Coffee is important to you. All food is important to you, that it's good.
Yeah.
So I can drink swill and dew when I'm on the road all the time. But Robbie makes 2 cups of coffee. Kaylin is like watching Breaking Bad.
Well, they're pour. Well,
Well, I was a barista, so
You're a barista.
I'm familiar with
so we're singing
the
your
coffee
song.
making. Yeah.
Okay, so I just have been doing pour overs before pour overs became
Hip.
known
Yeah.
and hip.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
Starbucks even had a
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
So Robbie takes Pete's coffee, and she makes 2 pour-over cups of coffee because we like our coffee. I like my coffee with a little bit of 2% milk.
Yes.
I like it with half and half,
Yes.
but she won't let me have
Well,
it.
me too. But
And then Robbie likes it. All right, just to show you what it's like living with a crazy woman.
oh, but this is a new development.
But you're constantly developing crazy idiosyncrasies. So she likes her coffee with a little bit of whole milk
Yes.
to the right color.
Yes.
And you better get it right. And 12 drops, not 11, not 13, of stevia.
Well, that was because
That's bullshit, by the way, because when you had your surgery and I
Hang
was
on a
making your
minute.
coffee, I change it every day to see if you would notice.
That's funny.
I do 10, I do 14.
Yeah, but listen.
That's my own little quiet.
Listen, Linda. I never put sugar in my coffee until I went on some weird diet, and I was so hungry, but they did say that I could have stevia.
So you take half a tincture.
So I put the stevia in, and now I'm hooked.
Yeah, well,
Now I'm hooked on sweet coffee.
yeah, but that's her MO is like, I don't really give a shit what I eat. Like, I always look at it as like whatever I order for dinner.
I know.
If it's not what I want, then tomorrow's going to be another dinner. I swear to God, there's a 3-month span where Robbie ate Thai lettuce wraps from Cheesecake Factory, not just every night, but for every meal except breakfast. Am I wrong? Like, you get on a kick. How far did you drive for the olio aglio shit that you love?
Bossa Nova.
Yeah, but that's like
That's really
8
far.
miles from our house.
Until you just discovered we could Uber Eats it.
So I'm literally
And
have
now
to
we're
work
in
for the rest of my
trouble.
life
And now we're
because
in
of my
trouble.
DoorDash bill.
Now we're in trouble. But come on, let's talk about,
The real stuff?
you just got home
Okay.
from,
All right.
from being away.
I'll do it.
Okay.
All right. So the reason we're in this is I've been in it. I've been not the best version of me. But that's, you know what? That's not even fair to say. I've been having a chapter of anger and resentment. Some shit went down that hurt my feelings, and there were some people that propagated some lies. And I really hold on. You can't do what I do to you on the podcast. So I was in a bad way, and Robbie is married to me. Now I have been married to her when she's in a bad way. But what I wanted to bring to you, because I kind of want this podcast to be not me giving you answers, but I'm not afraid to work things out in front of you in hopes that you guys who are in a relationship might find something that helps you, right? So what we're talking about is codependence, if I can put a title on it. Because what happens is this. So what we're talking about is when you're in a relationship with somebody, there's you, there's her, and there's us. And I think we dwell on us more than we do the individuals. And what's the line between being empathic and having empathy and wanting to help your partner and detachment for your own life-saving soul? And this is what we would call codependence. So I throw these phrases out that are actual clinical phrases that I'm not really well versed in, but Robbie has every book to back up what we're talking about. So we're going to talk about what we went through a little bit and what the fuck is like toxic codependence. And by the way, I think that codependence, like codependent behavior that brings misery to both parties, comes from a place of love most of the time. Don't you think, Rob?
Yes, but then it gets it gets distorted when one person gets obsessive.
Well,
You know what I mean?
It's not even about obsessive. I don't even think it's about the level of codependence. I think what the birth of codependence is, I care about you. What you're going through affects me, and then I'm going to do everything I can to change it for you and for me. Like I can't be okay if you're not okay, so let me see if I can solve your problem so that I'm okay. And all of that is sick. Like all that's fucked up.
And early on in our marriage, you were much better at being that person when I was the
person.
The fixer.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I'm not so sure as I've grown older if that's the role. Wait.
When in our marriage when we were younger, I was the one. I was sort of like the designated patient.
Oh yeah, you were a mess, and I was
were
in denial. I was a mess too, but I hadn't yet discovered.
And you were great at helping me, but then when I kind of, did a lot of work, therapy, whatever, all of it, all the work, and then so when you were going through this time that you were going through. It wasn't, I wasn't as graceful detaching as you seem to be.
Well,
when we were younger.
Okay, but I think also some of that is that it's apples and oranges because in our situation where I'm out there working in your home, you're doing your own thing, you got your life, but as far as our problems as a couple goes, there's some... When I go down, like I go to a dark place, it's scary for you. I think you guys can relate to this, that when the person that you depend on suddenly shows weakness, while that's healthy for them to do, it's scary for the other person who's involved. Same thing for me. If I see you freaking out, it's scary for me. I have 36 years of training with you to go, she'll be all right tomorrow. But it's when whom in our relationship we would argue, would probably make the case that I'm the more even.
I think our kids would laugh at that now.
I think it's changed.
Yeah. It is definitely changed.
I heard myself say it. I'm like, who the fuck are you kidding?
Yes, because when I said to Goldie, our daughter, I went, Dad, Dad's grounded in the most, and he's authentic, and she giggled on the phone.
Well,
but it's true. You are, and so what happened? Wait. Goldie,
that's my own daughter. No. I love you, but
I want you to share with everybody what you said to me when you went on the road.
What did I say to you? Oh, when I was going through it and I was on the road and I'm like, look, and I've never done this to you
ever. And
that was and by the way, I felt like this was really healthy for us both. Actually, I said, look, I don't want you to... I was saying what I was going through. I can't really share it. It has to do with business, and there'll be a time where I can share it because there's some people I would really like to trash on this podcast. I'd like to put on the troll hat and just fucking go to town. But also, I've worked through some of that. But what I was saying in the moment when I'm on the road, I'm doing a show. At the time, there were like 400 people in the audience. I loved doing that show, but it wasn't a particularly good night. And I was going through some stuff that had me doubting my worth, and I was really angry. And Robbie was going, well, you just got to remember that God's rejection is God's protection and all this stuff that's really, really wise. But I was like, I don't want to fucking hear that right now. And I'm going to be in this right now. And I need you to say one thing only. I'm okay. Like, I want to take off my agenda that you're not okay because I'm not okay. And I really don't want to hear you try to fix me right now. What I'm saying to you is I'm putting you on notice that I'm in this anger, self-pity mode, and I'm going to stay in it until I'm not in it anymore. And the phrase I said is, I don't fucking care. It's not very enlightened to me, you guys. And I know that some of you are like, well, Mark, you know better than this. But that's where I was, and I made a request essentially to you to say, you're going to have to tell me that you like where we live, and everything's okay.
No, it wasn't only that. You didn't want to feel better. Right? And so for me, For me, it
wasn't that I didn't want to feel better.
No, you didn't. You didn't want to feel better.
It wasn't that I didn't want to feel better. It was that I was feeling something heavy, and I needed to acknowledge what I was feeling and not muscle through feeling better as quick as I could. And you wanted me to feel better, and part of it was because when I don't feel good, it's scary to you, and that's what we're talking about is
that. Yeah, and so a dear friend of mine said to me, Robbie, you don't have to suffer. And, that's a tall order. And that's why I brought Codependent No More, which is a famous
who wrote it?
Melody
Beatty?
Beatty, yeah.
Yeah.
Famous book. And, when she said that to me, she said, you don't have to suffer. Mark has to go through this process and he's going to be fine, but you just have to stay out of the way and let him go through it, on his own, which is really different for us because we don't do that. We don't really do that.
I have had to do it with you more than you've had the opportunity to do it for me.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say is I've also, on the show and in life, what happens on the show happens on the show, but there are a lot of people that come to me and Robbie separate and together with life shit, and for whatever reason, I give them my take. And I have told people many times that when your partner is having a hard time, and I don't think it's gender specific, but I'm going to generalize that dudes do this a lot. When their girl comes to them with problem, our first reaction is going, well, that's like even Mark DiCarlo was this way. Well, that's simple. I can solve it for you. If you just do this, this, and this, you'll feel better, which is what you were kind of doing for me. When, in fact, I have coached people, the strongest answer we can give people when they come to us in it, I call it in it, I think you know what that means, is to say to them, I love you, and I understand. And even as I say that to you, you want to add but, and also, or why don't you try? And the hardest thing in this season of my life to learn, and I flipped off Goldie, but actually I'm learning this from Goldie and from Morgan because my kids are amazing. But what I'm learning is the power of giving advice when asked and not giving advice when not asked. Because when we think we're trying to help the other person, but they didn't ask us for help, it doesn't feel like help on the other end. You can't hear it, you can't hear it. And probably...
Right. You couldn't hear me, and I did everything wrong. I called a friend and didn't tell you.
You called one of my friends.
Yes, one of your friends.
Pat Finn, who was on the show.
But wait, he's my friend too.
Mine first. You get him only because of me.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But
he loves you, but...
I did, and, I said, look, give him a call. Would you give Mark a call? I'm kind of worried. I'm worried. And he was like, well, what's going on? And when I told him, he went, really? He was like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised that he's reacting this way.
Freshman year level.
Well, it kind of hit you, like, obviously we needed to go through this, and obviously you needed to go through this. And I really have to say, that I've been in therapy my whole adult life, right? And we can, therapy is a good thing. But when your partner goes into therapy, everyone, I have one suggestion. You ready?
This may not have been a good idea.
And that is to buckle up.
I've been buckled in for 30 years. I've been in therapy for 6 months.
Yes, and I have got my seatbelt on tight. Because what happens is those early days of therapy, what you're dealing with is all the muck and the self-loathing, and you're talking about it, and you're talking about the past, and I love you, but it's all, kind of coming up for you. Yeah. And then this happened, and you were vulnerable. Okay. You were vulnerable.
I think there's truth in what you're saying. I just want to be clear that what I'm doing in therapy...
Yeah.
And that you just projected all over is not at all what my therapy sessions are like, but you can have that.
Okay.
And I'm going to acknowledge the fact that when you're in therapy, however you're dealing with it, whether you're talking about the past or talking about the future or talking about how you're feeling right now, whatever that is, I'll acknowledge it does stir stuff up.
Yeah, and I'm all for it.
Separate from that.
You get to have it stirred up. I'm all for it.
Okay, what I'm saying to you is...
But it's difficult to be on the other side.
What I'm saying to you is I'm not so sure the therapy thing has anything to do with this, but I'm going to give it to you that you think it is. What I'm saying is And what I want to focus this on so that you can we can play a little game here of you reading me quotes and seeing it.
Okay.
Because that's a game we play at home. Is that for younger couples, dating couples, still trying to figure it out. You're walking a little bit on eggshells and you think this could be it, but you're not sure.
Yes.
Take it. So it's that thing. It's what I started to say earlier is that codependence, the behavior codependence, from the person who's doing it, I think is born out of a deep love for the person that you want to help. And it's unsettling when that person that you love isn't okay.
Right.
And so the natural thing, the mothering thing, the fathering thing to do is if it's not okay, what can I do to soothe you? What can I say? What can I give to you? When in fact, I'm learning that there's two sides to that. And let me say this point and get your.
I will.
Don't jump ahead.
I want you to hear.
Rob?
I will, but I want you to
right
hear.
now. Right now. Don't jump ahead.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Is that not only are you trying to soothe, not only are you doing what you think you should be doing as a loving partner for that partner, but I want you, as I'm looking at it, I want you to consider that you're not just doing it for them, that you're also doing it for you. And that's where it gets tricky, is because what you're doing is you're going, my wife is not okay, so I love her, so let me see if I can fix that. But what you're not possibly present to is that her not being okay is making you not okay, and you fixing her is really so that you can be okay. So there's a little selfish thing in that codependence. And by the way, what we have learned through several chapters with other people in our lives is that, and we're going to talk about, and I'm going to give it to you here, that detachment from that, in other words, the act of not fixing, is probably the most generous way to love someone. And what I knew is what I brought to that conversation. What I knew is I don't need codependence right here. What I need is to work this out I'm going to make some mistakes. I get to throw a tantrum. I get to self-pity. I get to be an asshole to everyone. What I said was, I'm not going to be nice to anyone. I'm going to not be the guy who's liked by people for a few weeks. By the way, I'm way back to needing to be liked by all of them.
I'm so glad.
And by the way, Kaylin, how's this going? Do you feel like this is good?
Oh, yes. I feel like you're coming off very likable.
Okay, because it's really important to me what you think.
Yeah. I like you, Mark.
Thank you. I feel so much, but I might cry. Anyway, I had to say that out loud, and it was an exercise for me to what would it be like if I didn't codepend with every single person I meet, and make the request to my wife to handle your own shit for a minute. Don't talk to me about your hip hurting. Don't talk to me about what bill we got to pay, and don't talk to me about anything that you're upset with that normally I would have ears for, because I don't have any ears for any of this shit.
Right.
And the loving thing to do on the other side of that Robbie was generous, is saying, okay, which meant that she now had to sit with her own feelings.
But it was really, really hard,
right.
and I didn't like it.
And that's what I think people need to know, is that that's really fucking hard.
It was really, really hard, and I was worried.
So get into this.
I was worried. I didn't like it. I was really, that emotional disconnection was really uncomfortable for me because...
I still called you.
Yeah, but it was really short and sweet, and that was
short and not so sweet.
Well, it was hard. I mean, it was still sweet, but it was just difficult. But
all right,
I do
give me something from the book.
This is so great.
Here we go. Because
this one little couple of sentences says,
say them.
When should we detach? When? Right? There's a lot. Ready for this? When we can't stop thinking, talking about, or worrying about someone or something, when our emotions are churning and boiling.
That's when we should detach?
Yes, and when we feel like we have to do something about someone because we can't stand it another minute.
Oh my God, that's what we just said.
Yes.
That's so golden, is that's exactly it. We believe the churning and the upset and all that is that they're not okay, and I love them so much I want to help them. But what that actually says is when our churning, our upset is so uncomfortable that we'll do anything so that we feel better, which means I better fix her, as opposed to your battle emotionally isn't my battle emotionally, and should not dictate my happiness or unhappiness.
Well,
is that what you think of that?
Also, Melanie, what do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got to hear, because I was
It's Melody, isn't it?
Oh, it's Melody. Yeah. Sorry, Melody. But I was like, I was thinking, obsessive about it, thinking about it, worrying about you, and
which one does? I do it about you all the time.
Until you kind of like get dragged, you get bloody and you get dragged because you can't stop thinking about the person that you love. That's why I called Pat and I was like, would you give him a call? Just. I'm sure you could snap him out.
And by the way, with all love and respect to you, the height of codependent behavior was this. She calls one of my dearest friends and says, call him and check on him, but don't tell him that I told you to call him.
Oh, yeah. He said, should I tell Mark? Should I tell Mark that you called? I said, absolutely not.
And how quick did I snip that one out?
Instantly. Instantly, you said,
did you call Pat?
Did you call Pat? And I said, well, why would you say such a thing like that? Remember. And then I came clean right away.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I love about us and that is that it's rarely, first of all, our behavior with one another is rarely anything other than loving and sometimes uneducated or ill-informed or triggered, but it's never spiteful or malicious.
Right.
You weren't selling me out.
So, somebody else said to me, leave him alone.
Which is what I said to you.
Just leave him alone.
Which I said just straightforward.
He's okay. And it was difficult for me to do that. But, it's important to mention what detaching with love means because this book is absolutely amazing.
Well,
and if we could only do it, it would be a miracle.
You've been preparing all day. I've done nothing, which is, by the way, this is the microcosm. This is it. I read nothing. I have thoughts, and then I express them. Robbie's life revolves around a highlighter. That's your thing.
Well, I'm glad because when I pulled this out, the sections
was already highlighted.
Yeah.
So
can you just get right to it? So detaching does not mean we don't care.
Okay.
Right? It doesn't mean we don't care.
All right. What's another one?
And there are rewards to detaching with love.
So animated. What's one of the rewards?
Well, there's several.
Give me one.
Serenity. A deep sense of peace. Now, this is if you can detach.
Well, that's what I love is that you said it before we started recording. You're like, well, this is great if you can fucking do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because this is amazing. But
if you can do it. But
it's really difficult.
That's like what I said. Remember, Caitlin, we were talking about self-help, and I'm like, yeah, that's really fucking great. But it's the areas you need help on that you can't self-help. Yeah. You need somebody else to help you.
But hang on, because, at least if you're aware, like also my friend said, go read Codependent No More, because obviously she could hear how codependent I was being.
And I love that they said, go read this book, but you had it in your library.
Oh, absolutely.
Already highlighted from top to bottom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's your fucking problem, codependent?
How about this? This is another reward.
Okay.
The ability to give and receive love in self-enhancing, energizing ways, right? And the freedom to find real solutions to our problems, right? That wasn't a good one.
No, that wasn't great. It lost me.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Go to another card.
Maybe I wrote it wrong, but it says
this is what happens.
Wait.
What happens if you misquote self-help books? And then you take that to be true and you actualize that. And they said, but that, and then you look back at the book and go, wait, I'm doing exactly opposite.
Wait, listen. Detachment is based on the premises that each person is responsible for himself, that we can't solve problems that aren't ours to solve, and that worrying doesn't help.
Okay, let's stay with that a second.
Okay.
Because that's a distinction.
Absolutely.
Like a definition.
Yeah.
And so you know where I vibrate, the simpler it is, the more juice there is to extract from me. So simple for me is the fact that young couples, when one of you is less than center, you're going in it, you're in it, that it's not your problem. It affects you.
It's not personal.
It's not personal.
But it sure feels it sure feels personal, though.
Well, yeah, it does.
It does.
It's scary.
Yeah.
But the other thing to think about too, this is like gray hair Mark talking as opposed to 20-year-old Mark talking, is that 9 times out of 10, those funks, those those shifts in behavior when somebody's in it as opposed to what you know them to be normally, they pass. And that's what I hear from what you've been talking about all day with this book, is that the concept of like the aspirin you take for codependence, it's not the same aspirin you give the person having a hard time, but the aspirin you take for codependence is detachment.
Right.
But as Al-Anon and other programs talk about, it's loving detach with love, right? Am I saying it right?
Yes, detaching with love, yeah.
And what I think is counterintuitive, but makes sense when you really break it down, is that the intuitive nature is, if someone I love is in trouble, I'm going to do whatever I can to protect or help them.
Right.
The counterintuitive way to be loving is to let them have their upset and you be okay. Because there's a couple benefits. One is you get to be okay. And the other is the person who's in fear or in upset gets to look at the person, whether they know it in the moment or not. That is their North Star, their compass point, and say, okay, they're okay, which gives me permission to find my center, find my North Star.
Right. So, another way of saying detach with love is detach with love, right? And then go do something nice for yourself, right? Go take a walk. Go take a bath.
Well, because the worry. Say the thing about worry again that you said in there.
Right. About we can't solve problems that aren't ours to solve.
That's right.
And that worrying doesn't help.
Yeah.
So we adopt a policy of keeping our hands off other people's responsibilities.
By the way, let's crunch the worry thing up again.
And tend to your own your own life, your own what you're going to do for the day. But
hold on. Okay. I want to talk about the worry thing, because what worry presents as when there's upset is concern or care, but it's literally does nothing for anyone except make you sick. So in other words, all the time you spend worrying, gosh, I hope they're okay. I hope they're okay. It makes us feel like if we're worrying, we're creating solution, but we're not.
Well, I'm trying to remember who said this. I think it was Deepak who says, or Eckhart Tolle, one of them.
I like it when you refer to these teachers in their first name like your pals.
Yeah, we are. We're pals.
Like Eki.
That worrying is the ego's way of feeling sorry for itself, which is so deep.
That's great too.
That's so deep.
It is deep, because do you see what that is? Is worry, which we would take in the front lobe of our head as caring about someone else, is actually self-centered behavior.
Self-centered
and codependence is.
And self-seeking.
Right.
A self-seeking motive. If you feel better, I'm okay. And I'll be okay if you feel better, right? And and
by the way,
you didn't you really look, you didn't really want to feel better. You wanted to kind of just work it out, and that was difficult for me, that we know so much information that you didn't want any of it.
But that's it's not that I didn't want
just
it.
For a couple of days or for however long.
Well, let me be clear. It wasn't that I didn't want it, and it wasn't that I didn't know it. Right?
You weren't doing it.
But I chose to not rush where I was out of it, because that wouldn't be right. Like, look at it this way. The way you and I are different when we get the flu.
Oh, gosh.
You are, what can I take? How do we get done now?
Oh, I cannot, I have to feel better.
Right. And I get quiet, get really meditative. I put blankets over there and I sit still until it passes.
I've never seen anything like it. It's absolutely,
it drives you crazy.
Absolutely undoable the way you do it.
And to me, the suffering is undoable. To me, if I just accept that I'm sick and just sit and kind of go, all right, what am I actually feeling from a neuro response standpoint? Okay, the head hurts, but that's just an electric pulse.
Okay, that's amazing, because also in Codependent No More, which I highly recommend to everyone.
And we have, we're not getting commission on this book.
No, this is just an amazing.
All right, go ahead. What's your point?
What you were talking about is Detachment also involves accepting reality, the facts. It requires faith in ourselves, in God, in other people, and in the natural order and destiny of things in this world. But that's like, when Goldie was going through a terrible time, a dear friend to me said, Robbie, God's got her. And I went, that's absolutely not.
That's not going to be fast enough for me.
I can't trust that.
Well, and let's address that.
I can't trust that.
Well, let's address that for a second. Because the God thing spins people out.
Right.
Some of you are like, yes, preach. And some of you are like, fuck, it's one of those people. So here's what I'm going to say about that acceptance thing. I preach about this all the time. Preach is the wrong word. But it really, to me, it is how I get out of trouble. Is that
you do, Mark?
To me, there's two. I may, and Kaylin, if I'm saying the same thing over and over again, will that affect how much you like me or not?
No, Mark.
Okay, I think I am. I really feel like we can talk about higher power. We can talk about is God or not God, but let's just say the universe has a connection.
Absolutely. Meaning the universe had Goldie.
Right. I'm making a bigger point here.
Okay.
Stay with me a second. You've heard all of them before.
Okay.
Let's just pretend that there is something bigger than us that connects us, and we don't need to call it anything. I like to call it the vibe because it makes me sound younger than I am. On God. I like to drop in a couple of those over there. You feel me? Bad. Okay. So anyway, what I'm saying is, whether there's a plan or not, whether it is random or not, we get to choose our relationship to the things that are happening. And I talk about the gap that people live in a lot. I think I've talked about it here with Kaylin before, is that there's what we wish was, and that goes into this codependence with your partner. What we wish is that they were okay so that I can now be okay.
Yeah.
But it just is what it is. And the quicker, and that goes like to the flu, the quicker we
can accept it. Yeah.
Meet life right where it is and accept what is, the quicker the universe does the magic shit.
And the
magic shit is
that's right.
Manifestation, all the things that you're doing on your vision board, everything Pinterest is for you. That thing is, in my opinion, to access that thing is to accept what is. You can still vision what you hope to be. You can be grateful for the thing. Robbie always says that you can say it out loud. What is the prayer you say all the time? It's not even a prayer, but the affirmation you say all the time. I'm so thankful for.
Oh, I say it every night before I go to sleep. Thank you for all the wonderful things to come.
Right. So that's great.
So I'm in gratitude before all of the wonderful things. But
that's great.
To speak on what you're talking about, another thing that Melody says is detachment involves present moment living. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
In the present moment, right? And not writing a script that comes out of fear and worry.
So what does that look like? Something happened to me. Something happened to me. By the way, a couple weeks removed, even when I tried to tell Kaylin it didn't have quite the ass that I had.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
when I told the story 2 weeks ago, it was great drama, high drama, and everybody who I could talk to about it was like, oh my God, Mark, that's horrible. And I can't even reenact that anger to Kaylin now because in hindsight, one, because I really want him to think I'm strong with that. And the other is because when you do accept the things that are without a projection of good or bad or level 10 or level 1, the sting, the venom just pours out of it. You now, by choosing a relationship to the events and being honest about what actually is, takes a lot of the sting out of the 4 agreements of don't take anything personally.
Right.
We rewrite the story of what is based on how personally we take stuff. Right. And when you just say it just is, what if it wasn't at me or against me? And then you get to say phrases, and I've joked about this before, and Robbie got really pissed at me about it, but I'm going to do it again. Robbie speaks in bumper stickers and live, love, laugh stuff.
No, never live, love, laugh.
Not that, but I'm using that as a genre of cliche. But all of them are really, really smart, and one of them is God's protection. God's rejection
is God's
protection.
That's
so you
right.
take God out of it. But what I'm saying is, what appears to be failure in your life, or even people being vindictive, or things happening against you maliciously.
What you think it looks like in the moment.
It could be or couldn't be. What it is things happen, and it could be someone lied, cheated, or stole on you, and it caused you financial change or some emotional thing or whatever. But in that moment, you get to accept it as it is, and it could actually be what Robbie says in cliche form, that this whole failure period, this whole heartbreak, this whole things you thought you had being taken away actually serves you a purpose that is yet to be revealed. And the hard part, which is getting back to the book of like when you read something and say, well, that's fucking great, but how do you do it? The hard part is, in hindsight, you can look at those moments and go, well, if this hadn't fallen apart, this wouldn't have been so great. And I can see that now. The hard part, we talked about this when I was in it, is that when it's happening to you, or you think it's happening to you, it's hard to say, thank you for this lesson, and I can't wait to see what you're going to put in this place.
Well, right, because
which has already happened, by the way.
Because we're in Earth School. I know you don't like when I say that.
I don't mind. You can say any cliche you want.
We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Ram Dass.
And we're human beings walking, helping each other walk through things. And, we get vulnerable and we're emotional and we get triggered and we have fear. But there is a way.
Bring it home, baby.
To do it.
Bring it home.
and you can remember it by
Say
the
it.
word how. How do you do it? Honesty.
Here we go.
No, it's right here.
I love it.
didn't
Acronyms are great.
Honesty, openness, and willingness.
HOW.
Yeah. And so, but in the moment, it's difficult if it catches you off guard because,
So let me bring...
we're meaning makers. We interpret
Yes.
everything. We write scripts.
So let me bring it back to what we
Right?
really talked about, which is codependence, and how in coupledom, in relationship, your happiness often depends on their happiness. Their sadness you either try to fix or mirror, and that's a trap. Okay? So let's bring all of this home back into codependence. Oh, shit, I've lost my whole train of thought. Honesty,
Openness. And willingness.
And I think that concept of being honest about how you're feeling to your partner when you're on this side of it, and I can't really bring that home from that point. What I was trying to get to with the codependence thing is that the more we try to fix the problem for the person we're in relationship with, the less effective we are.
Let's let Melody help.
Okay?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I needed the help. I'm really...
This is her definition of codependence. Okay? A codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. And
It's brilliant.
yeah.
Brilliant. So to close it all up...
And I'm so glad you're feeling better. I feel much better now.
So you just threw everything away. Everything away. Well, but that... All right, let's wrap it up.
And I love you.
I love you too.
And also, there's one other incredible acronym that's also very difficult to do, but that love stands for let others voluntarily evolve.
Okay.
And
so
that's
the key
easier
word,
said than done.
But what's the key word in that?
Let.
No. You got to put 1 in 4 chance.
Evolve. Wait, let me guess again. Ding, 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 ding.
You're down to 50-50.
Honey.
All right, what is it?
Let others voluntarily evolve.
I think the key is voluntarily.
You do?
Yes, because I think what happens in upset in relationship is we jump into the fold quicker and before we're invited. So maybe let was a better word.
Yeah.
But when somebody's in it, I go back to where I started this. Probably the best answer is I love you and I understand, and then be quiet. because let others voluntarily, on their own volition,
True.
evolve wherever or devolve. And what I've said in parenting works in relationship is that if you want to have a relationship with your kids, you can't tell them what they're doing right or wrong. All you can do is be an ear to their communication. And what I'm hearing in that let others voluntarily evolve is if you really love someone, you work on keeping yourself even and happy so you can be strong for them, and not offering solutions for them until they ask you for help. And then you go, well, how's this sound? Maybe this works. As opposed to, oh, I can see you're in trouble. Let me grab my books and start reading you my highlighted shit, which you love to do.
No, honey. But I don't do that. That sounds like that's what I do.
We all do it. I'm not.
Yeah.
Look, we are literally both preaching about codependence and
being
displaying it for you as it happens in real time. But let's wrap it up there. Rob.
Well, wait, one more thing and we'll wrap it up.
Oh, my God. We talked about this at home. When I say
never,
it's time to wrap it up, we have to wrap it up. It's not start a new topic.
I was never worried that you didn't love me or anything like that.
You see that there's no stopping the
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
that's important to say because it was just difficult for me to just let it be.
Okay. Well, let this be because we're running out of time.
Go.
I was going to say to you, thank you. And as much as I give you shit for your bumper stickers and your cliches and your books and your highlighter, we process differently. So that gets to be a little bit of like literary speak for me, and it gets to be white noise, but it isn't for you. And what happens is, whether I want to hear it or not, when it's a conversation, you can't deny what you've heard. Right. And so I thank you for being a stand for me, a possibility, and a partner for me, even through the thick and the thin. And I love that we keep trying to learn and we keep fucking it up a lot. But again, to wrap it up in a nutshell,
we're soulmates,
when your partner's going through it, you're not going through it. Your partner's going through it. And this goes under the heading that we talked about that your brother told me, which is how many jobs are you doing that nobody hired you to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So you can quit the job of fixing your partner. You can keep the job that your partner hired you to be, which is to be their support.
But we are in a spiritual relationship where we do help each other grow.
Yes, we do.
And that is the kind of relationship that I've always wanted. And I love you.
Glad to be part of it. Awesome. I love you. All that stuff. Gushy, gushy. But let's wrap it up. So let them go through it. Take care of yourself. Be there when they ask you. Is, I think, what I've learned from this.
Okay. All right. Well, good.
Are you hungry? Thai lettuce wraps? We'll talk to you next time.
It's those sauces.
I think we're done unless Robbie says, but wait, and then we have to start again. But I think we're done. Are we done?
I guess we're done. It's your podcast. Oh, I could go on and on about, talking with you about all this stuff forever.
Well, the good thing is we live together.
Yeah.
So we can do that at our kitchen table over our pour over in the morning.
Yes.
And your 12, not 13 drops of stevia, which is a crock of shit. You can't tell the difference.
I can't believe you did that.
I did 9, I did 12, I did 15. You don't know the difference. Anything after 4 doesn't fucking matter.
Well, after all these years, I forgive you. I forgive you for putting more drops.
You?
Yeah. Okay. Forgiving me less drops and more drops for changing it up.
Okay. We'll see you. We're going to continue for hours in this healthy, unhealthy conversation. But thank you for joining us. And thank you for subscribing and liking and pressing all the buttons. And most importantly, before we go, thank you, Kaylin, for always loving me.
You're welcome, Mark.
Okay, I don't know that I trust it, but I'll see you next time.